Cryptocurrency is fairly new, and within the complex cryptocurrency ecosystem, there's a whole world of NFTs, or non-fungible tokens. And our guest today, Brendan Gillen, is going to share his experience and journey investing and engaging with the NFT space. The NFT space is still super niche, and not a lot of people are in it, but those who are in it have an amazing insight into the current market and the future potential for the overall space. So sharpen your pencils, grab your notebooks, and let's learn about NFTs. I'm Jarrett Carpenter, and this is Wifi Water. Brendan, welcome to Wi-Fi and Water. How are you?
Good, Jared. How you doing?
I'm doing well. You're in studio. How does it feel?
It feels wild. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. After, I told you that I started this during the pandemic. And so for most of the pandemic, I was just doing it via Zoom. So you kind of have like your own comfortability and you get used to Zoom, and I work from home. So I'm always used to having like 2D relationships. And now you're here in the person and it's great. And let's go back to the 2D, even though I guess things are kind of going to be VR, AR. But today we're going to talk about NFTs. So now I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you to define what an NFT is.
It's a non-fungible token. So it's basically a one-on-one limited value that gets put on the blockchain. Blockchain meaning a transparent area where we can trade Ethereum and buy stuff. It's like an open market for anybody to view. Yeah.
That was a really good answer.
Thank
I was
you.
like, I'm going to put him on early and get him in the hot seat, and then we'll see what happens. I think that's a really good answer. And I was listening to someone the other day, and I forget who it was, but they were like, when you're sitting around your Thanksgiving table this Thanksgiving, and someone asks you, because you're into crypto or NFTs, or something about it, and they say, hey, what's Bitcoin? The guy said, this is what you say. Bitcoin, and Bitcoin leads into NFTs, but it's the first time in human history that we've had digital scarcity on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And from Bitcoin comes Ethereum, and a lot of the NFT projects are built on Ethereum and obviously off of the blockchain. And so it's really the first time, in the past, you could have Mona Lisa, you could have a knockoff. And it may be actually really tough. Mona Lisa is probably the worst example because it's the most one of one there is. But, you could have a piece of artwork and it could be someone else could do a really, really, really good version of it. But with the blockchain, it basically says, no, that's a fake and that's real. That's authentic and that's not. And it's super transparent. It's on a public ledger, which is the blockchain. And everyone can kind of go check that out. And that is where the value comes from. And yeah, so that's what we're going to talk about today. And the reason why you're on is because I was talking with Sean. Shout out Sean. I'm sure he's listening to this. And he told me your story about the arbitrage you did with the, what was it? The Baby Ape Yacht.
Yeah,
which project?
Lil Ape Club. It's a derivative of the Bored Apes Yacht Club. And there's been a lot of news coming out about the Lil Ape Baby Club since my big sell, but
your big sell.
Yeah.
Which I've retold your story, not having even met you many times, to people to try to explain how kind of wild west the NFT area arena is. And so, yeah, tell us more about the baby. What's it? The Baby Ape
Lil Baby Ape Club.
Okay,
yeah.
Little Baby Ape Club. So tell us, how did you come across it?
So being on Twitter, I was scrolling through, and I follow a page that follows minted pages, and it tracks per hour how many projects have been minting the most. So it totals it up. And 1 hour actually caught my eye on Sunday, and it was Little Baby Ape Club had minted about 1,300 in 1 hour. That means that 1,300 NFTs sold in 1 hour. So that's 1,300 to however many people that was. And they were selling at 0.02 ETH, which at the time was about $300 plus gas. And gas is the fee on the blockchain for running the transaction. That's how the miners make their money. Bought actually 8 of them, and sat on them because I was actually down on trading for NFTs. I'd only been doing it a couple weeks, and I started off with about 2 ETH from the beginning, my initial investment, and got down to actually 0.5. So this was kind of like a Hail Mary pass in which that Yeah, it was kind of scary. So I had some FUD later on
Okay,
about
FUD. For all you listeners who are new or old to crypto, FUD is fear, uncertainty, and doubt, around. Okay.
I had so much FUD that I actually put about 5 of them up for sale at what I bought them for, or a little
just
more.
To recoup. So you were just fearful of the market crashing, of the little baby ape market crashing, and you freaked out. And so wait, you started with 2 ETH. I just want to make sure I understand. You started with 2 ETH, and you invested 1.5 in buying a select amount of NFTs, the ones you thought were obviously going to appreciate in value. You're not trying to buy something that's going to die the next day. Okay.
And that's why we learn from our mistakes. But at that point in time, I didn't really have any more ETH to learn from more mistakes. So saw that the market wasn't moving at all on these NFTs and put a bunch up for sale, went to bed. I woke up at about 7 in the morning to about 5 ETH in my wallet on overnight, which was the equivalent of about $24,000. And I couldn't go back to bed.
You haven't slept since, have you?
No. So it was it was out of a dream. But yeah, $24,000, $25,000 at that point in time for 5 ETH. It was wild.
So you put 5 of them up for auction, I guess.
Yeah.
And you made the option. How exactly does the auction work? I'm assuming there's like a buy now price.
Yeah.
And then there's also like I'll leave this on to auction for 24 hours.
Yeah. So you can set a time frame. I just did buy it now. Just like on eBay, when you would buy an item now, instead of bidding on it, you buy it and you own it. I put a bunch on for sale before bed, and one of them I actually put on for 4. I looked at the properties. So properties are the individual characteristics of the NFT. And then there's a percentage of each characteristic to each NFT in that project. So the one that I put up for 4 ETH had a bunch of 1% properties, which made it more rare than others.
Can you give us an example of these properties?
It was gold.
Gold. So it just had gold like in the coloring.
Yep.
Okay.
And it was covered in green slime.
Covered in green slime. See, because this makes me think of like Pokemon cards, which I don't really know a lot of, but Jeff, if you're listening, he's very into Pokemon cards, and he and his cousin went and they got a first edition trainer box. I may be butchering exactly what they got, but they got this first edition box from like 1999, paid about $15,000 for it off eBay, got it. They open it up, they open up the cards, and then they send them off to get graded or authenticated. In real world, we don't have the blockchain with physical things. And they're hoping to, triple or quadruple their original investment. But things that will make a card maybe more valuable could be, I guess, like an error or a common error that happened on the printing press from this particular printer that was in Japan or whatever. And so I guess the properties are kind of like that. They're like really, really unique things amongst the 1,300 NFTs from this collection that just kind of add more value? Is it something like that?
Yeah, so there's rarities. So there's limited numbers the higher you go. So you want to get the ones that are near the top of the charts. So mine was one of the top 10 most rare in the entire collection. So in total, there was 5,000 other little baby apes. And there were a lot more people that wanted to get in on that project, but they missed the minting process. So once 5,000 mint out at the 0.02 price, it goes on to the OpenSea market, OpenSea being basically the eBay of NFTs, and everybody wanted them. And I had no clue until I woke up the next day where the floor had hit about 0.9 ETH, and the floor being the lowest price for one NFT out of the 5,000 was 0.9.
And so yours, the one that sold for 4, that you said this has a lot of properties, I'll throw it up for 4. If it doesn't sell, I'm still fine. Like the world's not going to end. Or maybe I'll lower the price. I'll bring it down to 2 and see what happens. So the floor then became, when you woke up, literally to 0.9. You sold yours for 4. Did you see any others that sold for 10 or 20?
There was one other that sold for, I believe, 7. And then the cool thing about the blockchain in general is you can actually look who bought your NFT. And I followed up and looked into who purchased it. and they had listed it immediately after for 45 ETH. Now, they're still holding that NFT at this point in time. That project has fallen through. There was no roadmap. There was no team. It was all a bunch of FOMO. Everybody was just fearing of being left out.
And they just barreled in, dumped a bunch of ETH.
Yep.
So I had spoken to Sean before you came over, and he said the same thing. He said, literally, Brendan timed the market so well because he saw the minting, got in way below what then the floor would be at 0.9. So you got in at 0.2, and you sold that one for 4. So you had a crazy arbitrage as far as Xing your money. And then when you sold, it seems like you got out within days before the floor just kind of fell out.
I sold everything.
You sold everything. You sold all those, all the little babies are gone.
All of them.
Okay, cool. So how many, but you still have your own, do you have other NFTs that you're holding on to more longer term that probably aren't going to be a 7-day arbitrage?
Yeah, I actually purchased one NFT today for 3 ETH because of who it's affiliated with. So I used my earnings from that little baby ape to buy into a project that's essentially a blue chip NFT, like an automatic blue chip NFT. But it's this guy, Journey Crypto, who's the #1 NFT content creator on YouTube. He has over $22 million worth of NFTs in his portfolio. And he put out his own project, which he's making his life work, which is really cool. So to be part of that, it's basically a pass into his next few projects in his club of like 10,000 individual people.
How many subs does he have? Do you know off the top of your head? Just because I feel like when we talk about YouTube creators, when
millions.
You say
Millions.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, so tell me, because, you get all those winnings. And I think it takes a lot of assurance or gumption to know that now I'm going to take these 3 and I'm going to flip it into this thing, because I know it's going to continue, obviously long-term, to appreciate. I mean, the idea, I think, would be hopefully in 4 or 5 years, you have that, you sell it for whatever amount of ETH, and ETH is also going to appreciate. That's the other fun thing. And then you get to do kind of something different. And maybe you take that and you go into a different investment in NFTs or in something else, and God knows where NFTs are going to be then. But what was the thing that allowed you? Was it the social currency that the YouTube creator has and the fact that he has millions of subs? What was it that allowed you to do that? Because I have also recently bought NFTs, and I just want to, and these are like long-term NFTs. Like, this is an NFT I want to like give to my like children. But what's your process to like say, okay, I'm going to put large amounts of money relatively down on something I'll never be able to touch?
Yeah, I mean, I like transparency, and I also do my research on who I'm buying into. The Little Baby Apes was a one-off. Definitely probably won't happen again. I do my research. I look at the Twitter page for the account, the project. I also check out the Discord. I always want to make sure that they have a good audience and they always have a good conversation going. I always love a project when the creators will jump into the Discord with the fans. I mean, people that invest in their projects. It's pretty cool. And then I always look at the roadmap. So roadmap being that what's their future plan for this project? Will my money turn into something bigger than just money or just a return on investment? And he has promised 2 actual NFTs after this original one for anybody that invests in his initial one. So it's basically free minting of 2 future NFTs for the price of the first one.
Can you still get in on this project?
Yes, if you have the ETH or money too, because that's been actually the biggest complaint right now, is that it's such a high buy-in for a lot of people. So there's a lot of people in the crypto space that don't have 3 ETH to just buy into a project, and that's totally understanding, especially over the last few years we've had.
Yeah, because 3 ETH right now, as we sit here, is around $12,000, and I haven't looked at the price in the last 30 minutes, so it could be zero, but
yeah,
it's probably around $12,000, and that is a big chunk of change, I think, for someone who's listening to this, who's maybe just hearing about what NFTs are, to say, wow, this guy got some money, didn't take it off the table, and decided to reinvest it into the future. So the roadmap that you're saying is like, in the future, you're going to get 2 future minted NFTs because you bought this original NFT. So in many ways, this is kind of like, is it like his own community token?
Yep.
Okay, wow. How many are there going to be? Only 10,000?
10,000.
But there's some still up for grabs.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe I'll have to Now the gears are turning.
He's doing a sort of Dutch auction too for it. So it's been going down. I think it was like 0.15 ETH throughout the day. Every hour, it would just go down in price. So I bought in at 3 because I looked at that as that was kind of what I got back from my little baby ape. And that's not actually out of my principal of what I put in. So I actually have my principal still sitting in my wallet right now.
Right. So you're playing with house money. This is just let it ride. And if it happens, it happens.
Yep.
You can still walk home with the same that you put in.
Mm-hmm.
That's incredible. And I think this is something that's really hard for maybe anyone over 40. And I don't want to age people here, but it's like, I ask you, how did you find out about this? You're like, well, I watch YouTube. I sit on YouTube. I see what's going on there. And I sit on Twitter and I use Discord. So you're using these 3 platforms that are social media platforms in many ways, meant to connect people. But there's nothing like, there's no literature. It's like, I'm old enough that when I went to college, I still used books. It wasn't just JSTOR towards the end. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
I feel like for older generations hearing this, or really just anybody, it's like the way that maybe we were taught in school to do our due diligence had to be like something super empirical. It had to be fact-based, And here you are saying, no, I sit on Twitter and I'm looking at YouTube and I'm in a Discord, and this is how I find the most, backed up information that I can have to make pretty big money decisions.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I've always grown up with parents that have always supported, why don't you invest in gold? Why don't you invest in like a Roth IRA? Or why don't you just put more into your 401k? But I mean, the way the crypto market's going right now, I mean, Bitcoin could be my 401k someday. Or Ethereum could be something that I use to buy a house someday. And, it's transparent. It's easy. I would love to have my taxes just done by the blockchain someday where I don't have to do all the work to get my money back for that.
Right, because they just look and they're like, all right, Brendan spent this much and he had this much. They look at all the numbers, they take into account, and then they just take it.
Yep.
Or they basically almost Venmo request it from you, and then it sits in you until you pay it or something like that.
But there's just so much. We're so early to it right now. We're so early in the industry for buying digital items. Like, it's crazy that you can go onto a game like Fortnite, buy an outfit, spend $20, $30 on that outfit. And I mean, you have it, but you can't take it anywhere else. Using NFTs, you will eventually be able to use them on like Twitter and Discord and other places for your cosmetics and be able to take it across platform to platform. It's going to be really cool.
I'm so hyper aware that this is happening and I'm so excited about it. But at the same time, there's also like, it's anxiety mixed with like crazy. It's a little bit of anxiety, I think, and even I have to admit that. But it's also like I'm way more excited for all this to happen. But I think a lot of that is because I'm in on crypto, because you have to kind of be into crypto to probably feel comfortable with NFTs, I would say. And then from there, you can get into the metaverse and other things like what digital assets will do. So going back a little bit on your origin story, how long have you been around crypto? Because you said, your parents were pushing you to look into 401ks, Roth IRAs, gold, and other things, and stores of value, really. And since Bitcoin is, I think, a better store of value than gold, how long have you been into crypto? Was Bitcoin the first thing you bought?
Almost a newbie, but I actually started investing in crypto in February of this year. I had been told by a friend, we had a lot of crypto conversations, and he convinced me. So I actually sold about $5,000 of Apple stock and divided into 2. So 2,500 I put into Ethereum and 2,500 I put into Bitcoin. This is after like 50, 60 hours of research, watching YouTube videos, listening to more podcasts. I always do my homework before I buy into anything. Super careful about my investments. So, and I love to collect stuff too. So owning an item like Bitcoin is really cool. Owning, Ethereum is really cool. And to just see how much it's gone up over the last year, it's crazy. So like my 2,500 I put into Ethereum is about $10,000 now from February of this year.
Yeah, I think Raoul Paul said it the other day, but he's like, in a bull run, you just need to pick something and wait. Don't sell. It's going to go down a little bit. Just wait. Give it the time. It's kind of like when you open a bottle of wine, it needs to breathe a little bit. But in a bull run with crypto, you just got to wait. And you're going to see returns that, in your 401k or your Roth IRA would take 20 to 30 years to do, to 3x to 2x or whatever it would take. So it's been fun. And Sean was actually telling me that you guys were out on a trip in Washington and saw a dog and then decided to buy crypto. So I'll let you take that one away.
So we were on a hike in Washington, outside of Seattle, and we were walking along, and we saw a Shiba Inu in the flesh walking around in this state park that we were walking through. Sean looked at me and said, "Man, this is a sign." So I said, "All right, man, I'll take your word for it. Let's go." So I put $100 into Shiba Inu, and he did, I think, like 50 or 100 at the time. We sat on it, and a couple months later, we're up like 75, 100% on our investment, and then it just kept climbing. Since then, though, I have actually exchanged my Shiba earnings to ETH.
I think he did too. Did you guys talk about that? Because I feel like he said that I think he's still letting it ride.
He's on the fence. He wants to go. He wants it to go up more because the whole market for the last couple of weeks have been pretty up and down, mostly down. Bitcoin's been a little down. Ethereum's been a little down, but he wants to ride it, get more back, and then he'll exchange it for ETH.
The thing with Shiba is kind of like the thing with Doge, which is like it was a joke, but if you keep saying a joke long enough, it kind of becomes like real or something. It's like you keep joking around that player can't shoot, and all of a sudden they're hitting threes or something like that. And that's what I feel about Shiba. And she was actually now, I think you can buy Lambos with it. Did I read the other day? Or Ferraris. Like there are certain places that are really starting to like accept it, just like Doge. Like you can now use Doge in certain places that maybe you're not going to shop, but that people are accepting it.
Yeah, I bought Doge once upon a time as a joke. I got like $50 in dividends back to me one like fine day in June of 2020, and
Of Doge.
And
Please tell me you kept that.
No, I paper handsed because I mean, look how far it's come. I mean, everybody was like, "You had $50 of Doge back then. Now it's like $20,000. That would have been on a $50 investment."
Yeah, it would have been a lot. I had put 120 into Doge. I just had it in my Robinhood. And this is not a shout out to people to use Robinhood because I don't think that their crypto capabilities are where other places are like Binance or Coinbase or even Gemini. But I had $120 and I don't like to keep cash anymore. It's just kind of like a thing. It burns a hole in my bank account from inflation, or it just sits there and it dies a little bit. So I bought some Doge. And at one point it was at $9,000. So 120 to 9,000 in about 4 months. Now I've diamond hands and I still got it. So, I've rode the wave and I'm hoping it will go, but long term we'll see. But Shiba and Doge, they're just projects that like I can't look away from because on some level I'm like, I would much rather trade. I'd much rather like in the future, I see Doge being more of something I would use to pay for everyday things than Bitcoin. Because I don't want to ever sell my Bitcoin because Bitcoin is now for me like digital gold. It's my long-term store of value. You said it was like the 401k. I've done the pod on that. For me, it is my 401k. Like I know as long as I get enough little Bitcoin here and there, I'm good. I don't have to worry about any other things, my 401, any pension plan, any other Roth, like that's it. But Doge is one that I could like totally foresee. You and I are at a brewery in 10 years and they're like, how do you want to pay for this? We accept the USDC or the CBDC, the central bank digital coin, or we accept Doge because enough people have it now and people also don't really care about it that it's just kind of like the way I feel about cash. Enough people have it and it's not something I'm like super emotionally tied to if I need to, transact it to get a good or a service. So I don't know. And I wonder if Shiba could do kind of like the same thing. Enough people could have it and they put in a little bit of money and I don't know. Do you think Shiba is going to correct? Like, okay, so here's a question. There's no really good answer for this. We'll have to just see and we'll look back in the pod. Which one do you think is going to crash harder, Shiba or Doge?
I mean,
or do they crash?
I don't know. It's still so early. I think that both of them could still explode. I think that more people own Dogecoin, obviously, at this point. I mean, my mom owns Dogecoin, and
wow.
she doesn't really like crypto because she believes that, we should be putting money into the dollar. And taking money away from that brings down technically the economy because we're not valuing our dollar. So she has a little bit of Doge. She's riding that wave. She won't sell it. She tells me all the time how much she loves having Doge. And I'm like, all right, Mom, good for you. I'm proud of you.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is really cool.
I don't, whatever crypto people get, I don't know. There's a lot of people. I think it's really comes from like the Bitcoin maximalists because they think everything else is pardon my Spanish, a shit coin. But it's not, and I don't think it is. I think that there's so much more value out there besides Bitcoin, even though I do think Bitcoin is the apex predator here. I'm totally not a person though that's gonna like anytime someone tells me, if someone says, "Hey, I'm into crypto, I'm into Shiba," I'm like, great, because the more people that get in, just the better. And since you've gotten in, have you, somebody clearly talked to you into it and had a conversation, said, Brandon, I think you should look at this for this reason, this reason. Were you the catalyst to bring your mom closer into this? Or have you brought other people in your fold, in your community a little bit closer, even just to the point of saying, you know what, I'm going to put $50 on Bitcoin and just see what happens?
I've tried. I have a lot of friends that are into just the stock market in general. It's hard to bring them over to crypto because they're so focused on, our market, checking that day in, day out, investing in VTI, which is amazing to do. But to see like 200, 300% ROI is just nuts. And I mean, 15, 20%, 30% is amazing on a return on the stock market. And this past year, we saw record numbers, it's crazy. But, looking at our numbers that we've had over inflation over the last year, it's crazy. And to see on the news constantly that the economy is constantly in shambles, but the market doesn't reflect that. I mean, that makes me nervous that we're potentially in a bubble. So that's why I like to have my money elsewhere. My friend that got me into Ethereum and Bitcoin has also the same kind of mindset of like, that national debt index is going way up. And it makes him super nervous. It makes me nervous. And I have a lot of money in the stock market. I own a lot of Apple stock. I back it. But at the same time, I need to have a nest egg. And I love crypto. I think it's really interesting. It's like a cool club for nerdy people and making a lot of money doing it.
A cool club. You know what Sean said to me when I was talking to him before? He said something like, a couple years ago, if you were at the party, the house party, and you were in the corner and you like grabbed some dude or grabbed somebody and you were just getting nerdy on crypto, you were kind of like a crypto bro. But he's like, the crypto bros have now moved on and now they're the people at the party who are like talking about NFTs. Just now that crypto's a little bit more mainstream, because most people listening to this podcast probably have Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, or Square, and now which all offer you the ability to easily get crypto. So with NFTs, and you've talked about like the future of NFTs and buying digital goods, what's something that you're super excited to see moving forward with NFTs? Because clearly it's going to move beyond art. Art is just the first chapter of the first book of a volume of books in how NFTs and the blockchain are going to probably change the world we live in.
I think utility. So like the more use that we have for NFTs in general is going to be really interesting. I mean, you go online and you post your NFT, someone will, you bet someone will right click it, save it, repost it underneath your tweet of your NFT and say, hey, look what I got. But I mean, you can try and sell that, or, try and use the utility that's on that JPEG. There's nothing there. I own that JPEG and I own the utility behind that. It's kind of like taking a picture of the front of a house. Like you have that picture, you have a nice picture and it's a nice house, but what do you have on the inside? Nothing. Like I own that. So, I mean, when we look at NFTs and we look at utility, I mean, Bored Ape Yacht Club is an example. Their utility is creating more NFTs and they're going to be turning into their own coin. And they have, exclusive parties, they have exclusive hangouts. You're part of a club and it's really cool.
Have you seen the thing with the Bored Ape Yacht Club? And this is why I'm so glad you're here, because I'm learning a lot too. And that's one of the beauties of having your own podcast. But I saw this thing the other day. I think it was on TikTok or Instagram. It was on Instagram, but it had been dragged over from TikTok a la Instagram. And it was how you take your ape, you're from the Bored Ape Yacht Club, and then you give it like ooze, or you can mutate it. and then that basically creates other NFTs. Can you speak on that? Because that would be really enlightening for me.
Yeah, so there's the Bored Ape Yacht Club, and then there's basically derivatives that are associated with. So they're authenticated, they're affiliated with Bored Ape Yacht Club, but they also make Mutant Ape Yacht Club. So the Mutant Apes are the basically one-offs of the original Bored Ape Yacht Club, and you can own those or sell them.
See, that to me is just crazy, because that to me is what you're talking about with the roadmap, right? You're like, I get this one asset, and then it allows me into these private parties. It allows me into a community, and I can also take it and I can mutate it to get two more one of one super authentic digital assets that then I could either keep, let appreciate likely, or I could just sell, maybe recoup my money, and then maybe invest in something else. That to me is like, because I saw it the other day, and I kind of, that's what I thought. It was one of those things where like you understand it, but you don't believe that you understand it because it seems too crazy. And that to me is really cool. And I remember I read that I think Steph Curry had picked up a couple Bored Ape Yacht Clubs. It's pretty big in the NBA. And just overall, crypto is becoming exceedingly more mainstream. Obviously, NFTs too, but crypto, I read that Odell Beckham Jr. has said he wants his entire salary in Bitcoin, which I think is a great move, obviously. But where else? I want to start to think farther down the line. What's something that you think crypto is going to do that it's not doing now, but that will be good for people that maybe don't even need to get into crypto to reap the benefits of it?
I think it's just a value that's going to go up for people. So, for instance, Tom Brady recently gave away 1 Bitcoin to a fan that returned his record football to him. But I mean, looking at it then, it was about $60,000 that he's handing him. Who knows what's going to be in 5-10 years? That could be an amazing gift from Tom Brady to this fan.
I wonder too, it's like that particular Bitcoin and transaction, is that Bitcoin worth more because it's a Tom Brady Bitcoin? Does that make sense? The reality of it is no, right? Because a Bitcoin's a Bitcoin. And I remember that people were talking about this back a couple months when they were like, if you mine Bitcoin using all green energy, is it going to be, worth more than a Bitcoin that was made with coal energy? And the reality of it is no, it's going to get mixed in and people are going to forget, and then it's going to get siphoned off, and someone's going to buy 3 sats over here, 2 sats over there, and you're going to kind of forget that. But do you think there's a way to like take a picture of the thing and say, this is like, buy this NFT of me giving Tom the ball, and then this Bitcoin is worth, I don't know. We just live in a world where I could see that happening and somebody would buy it for like 10 Bitcoin, or 300 ETH.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'd love to have that Bitcoin from
that's
Tom
what I'm
Brady.
saying. Because then you just like, not only is that Bitcoin going to continue to appreciate, and one day I'm excited when it, hits a certain amount, but that's my Tom Brady Bitcoin.
I mean, yeah, when it comes down to it, who wouldn't love to have a Bitcoin from Tom Brady? But I also think in the NFT market, wouldn't you also love to have an NFT from one of the biggest, or one of the people that owns a Bored Yacht Club Ape? I mean, they're the ones in that atmosphere that are the famous people. Like, they're the ones that are on the Twitter spheres, they're on Discords, if you're going to invest in an NFT, you want to see who's in that project. So that's also why you go into the Discords. And if Tom Brady's in an NFT project, I mean, it definitely will make it go up in value because he has a lot of money and he's going to be investing in that. But also, you look at these Bored Apes as their pictures or other projects that are massive blue chip projects, and you back that project. I mean, yeah, it definitely will shoot it up in value quite a bit.
I haven't even, and this is total admission, I don't even have an account on OpenSea. I went on OpenSea for the first time not even a week ago, but I've been around NFTs for a while. One of the first projects I invested in 2017 was Engine, and that is continuing to be awesome investment. And I continue to look at it and, see price points where I want to continue to throw $100, $200, $300 into it, because I don't think that that's going anywhere. And because that is also I believe it's the cryptocurrency that they use on Minecraft. And Minecraft is like one of the biggest, kind of just create your own world games out there. When you're thinking about new projects or whatever, you got Discord, Twitter, YouTube. Who are the 2 or 3 content creators or personas that you find like super, super valuable? Because if people are listening, they're like, yeah, I want to get into NFTs, and I totally agree that I have to do my own research before I invest. But God, where do I even go? How do I find these discords that he's talking about? You know,
There's a couple of YouTubers. I like Journey Crypto a lot. He's been always the guy that's super successful, and why not follow the money? You know, go towards the source of who's making the most in the market. Because if it's working for them, it might work for you. The other person I've always looked to is over the last year is Andrei Jik. He is from Russia, came here, started as a magician in Las Vegas, and has since made millions of dollars on dividend investing and buying into crypto, buying into Bitcoin and Ethereum. And those are pretty much his biggest stakes, but he has some altcoins that he talks about, but he educates everybody transparently on every process, and not about crypto and always, but it can be about the stocks or, you know, new laws being passed, things like that. And the more education that he gives, it's been teaching me a lot.
how do you spell his name? Andrei Jik.
Andre Jikh, I believe.
Jikh. Okay.
But his channel is unbelievable. He's younger than me and is living a life in Las Vegas. He bought a house this year, paying all cash because I believe he had to at that point in time. But yeah, I mean, he does videos every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and spends about 40 hours on every video working on it.
Really?
Yeah.
Kids these days under 12 years old, more of them want to become YouTube creators than professional athletes. And so moving into the metaverse with that world of content creators, you got Journey Crypto, Andrei Jik. Have they started to talk about where they're going to play a role in the metaverse, where their content is going to play a role, or how any of that works?
Journey Crypto is all about the metaverse, so he actually doesn't sell a lot of his NFTs. He's got over 2,400 NFTs in his portfolio, which is well over $22 million, but he is thinking long term. He does not think about selling them. He has, I think, over like 15, 20 Bored Apes in his portfolio, and at this point in time, the floor for Bored Ape is 44 ETH.
It's 44 ETH. So my math, not that rusty. That's about $132,000.
Yep.
The floor.
Yep.
Wow. And what's the ceiling, dare I ask?
I mean, the ceiling being that one of the Jenners or Kardashians reached out to one of the Bored Ape holders and asked if she could buy it off her, and the person holding the NFT said no. So that's how big the ceiling is.
Right, and some of the Jenners are billionaires.
Yeah.
So we're talking millions of dollars.
Yep.
Oh my God. See, this is why I had to have you on the pod. Thinking about, you talk about Bitcoin and you talk about Apple stock. If I say you can only hold $100,000 of Bitcoin or $100,000, like right today, I give you $100,000. Do you put it, and you have to hold it for 10 years? Do you hold Apple or do you hold Bitcoin, and why?
Bitcoin.
And I know you work for Apple. We're not trying to split hairs here. We're not trying to split hairs. Bitcoin, and why?
I think the numbers that we keep seeing is just out of this world. People kept doubting it, kept saying it's never going to reach, 10,000. It's never going to reach 15,000. And it just keeps breaking the ceiling. No one knows where the ceiling is. No one knows where the floor is. I mean, with Apple stock, it's always going to be a good investment. Always, always, always. It's a great blue chip stock, pays dividends, but, is 4% really worth it in the end? Where I could be putting $100,000, get 2 Bitcoin, and just hold on to that, ride it the wave. I mean, predictions from banks across the line are saying like 150,000 over the next year.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you on your own opinion, from all your research, and what the banks are saying. I put on my website PDFs from Standard Chartered and Bank of America. Those are the ones I could get. And Standard Chartered, they're actually, how did I get those? I had to click a couple links and like sign up and give my email, and now they're bugging me all the time, but I just unsubscribed. And then the Bank of America one, when that came out, I had to like fill out a whole profile. I had to do all this work to get it, because the banks are aware of what's happening and what could continue to happen, but they're not making it like super easy for the average Joe Schmo investor who just, has a bank account, or just the average, honestly, US citizen. So I've seen, the banks say up to 200,000 over the next 6 months. Some people think it could even crack 300,000. I think 200,000 would be cool. That's like, if it hit 200,000, I mean, at that point, that'd be like really crazy. I think a lot of people's lives would be changing financially who have been around this space. What's your Bitcoin prediction for the end of this bull run? Keeping in mind that it may go through like, I don't know, it may go for a while, a lot longer than we think.
I mean, I'm optimistic. I'd love to see, another, like, I'll be realistic, I guess. Over the next few months, I'd say like 80, 90,000. But behind that also is ETH. So whatever Bitcoin does controls the rest of the market. So if it's going up, everything else is going to go up. It plays the music for everybody.
It does. It literally makes more room in the nightclub for other people to dance.
Yep.
What do you, so you said you bought some Bitcoin, you bought some Ethereum. Do you own any other coins? Any other things that are maybe tied to the metaverse or tied to NFTs? Or right now you're just staying Bitcoin and Ethereum?
I played around with Cardano a decent amount. I'm up about 100% on that. I always DCA on any like altcoins, and then but yeah, I'm up 100% on Cardano. I don't plan on selling that. It's dropped quite a bit over this bull run, which is really weird to see an altcoin do poorly in a bull run. But I mean, it's, co-founder of ETH, so I believe in it. I think that from a transactional standpoint, I think Cardano is more efficient. It just doesn't have the big audience like Ethereum does, and it's also not spoken about as much. But everybody that buys Cardano is like diehards.
Are you staking yours?
No, I just have it in my wallet. I've thought about staking, but I honestly don't have enough of it in there. I have about $200 invested in it.
Yeah. Can you also go back, and I know what the acronym means, but tell everyone what DCA means?
Dollar cost averaging.
Cool. Dollar cost averaging. And we talked about that before on the podcast, but I think it's really important to, if you believe in something, whatever it is, just putting a little amount every month, not worrying about the price because you believe, you believe in the long-term roadmap of appreciation. It's never a bad tactic, especially with crypto, because it's so volatile. It's really tough to time the market. Other than OpenSea, where else should people maybe think about looking for NFTs? Any other places that you think are good places?
I've been looking into Solana. I mean, that's a market that is definitely untapped at this point. They have their own coin. It's gone up over, like a year ago, it was trading at $1, and now it's at $200. I mean, it's a coin that don't we all wish that we got in early enough?
I looked at when you bought into Bitcoin Ethereum in February, it was at $6, and I decided to put my money into Harmony, which has also performed very well. But I'm still like, wow, that performed even better because it's $6 to 220 or 230. I mean, it's going to, Raoul Paul says it's tracking Ethereum, so it could go up to like $800. I mean, which would just be unbelievable. The crash is also going to be brutal with Solana because I think it's a little overheated. Mm-hmm. But okay, so you looked at Solana, but you're probably just staying with Ethereum and OpenSea at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's just gone up so much. Everything in the market's so high right now, and I don't have enough money to just throw around. I have it all where it's supposed to be.
Totally.
Everything I have is really in Ethereum and Bitcoin. Bitcoin, I'm not going to touch. I mean, I just keep adding $100 here and there. I buy in when I see red. So a lot of people panic sell when they see the market going down, and I actually just keep buying more. I don't ever plan on really getting out of Bitcoin or getting out of Ethereum. It's going to be always staked somewhere, or it's going to be invested somewhere. NFTs is a great way of moving around that Ethereum and then potentially getting it back with a lot higher of a return.
Well, Brendan, thank you so much for joining us, and you will hopefully be coming back on if you'd like to join us again.
Thanks, Jarrett. Thanks for having me.
Thanks again for listening to this episode, and a big shout out to Brendan for being an amazing guest. I think one of the things I like so much about crypto is that it's a community, and whenever you meet someone else, you're going to kind of share your story, and you're always going to learn. In crypto, in NFTs, in the metaverse, in anything that really has to do with blockchain, we're all constant students because the space evolves so rapidly. If you're interested in learning more about crypto, NFTs, or hear more episodes from this podcast that are focused on the metaverse, NFTs, or crypto, head over to jarrettcarpenter.com/crypto, and there you'll see more episodes from Wifi and Water. You'll also see the 2 documents, or the 3 documents that I referenced today. They're from Standard Chartered Bank and the Bank of America that have to do with crypto. They're investor guides, and they're not necessarily easy to find on the internet, so head over to my website and check them out. You'll also see 2 YouTube playlists that I've curated. One's for novices to crypto, and the other one's to more veteran traders. But go check those out, because there's always something to learn. Oh, and before I forget, on the episode today, I did some mental math, and I said that the 44 ETH for a Bored Ape Yacht Club NFT would come out to be about 130,000. This being the floor for the price is actually more like 180,000. Please go ahead and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Wi-Fi and Water Podcast. And no matter where you're listening to the podcast, please subscribe, and if you feel so inclined, leave a review. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.